everybody, it is Dean Z speaking to you from the University of Michigan Law School on a beautiful, literally perfect day, and it's art fair here in Ann Arbor, which is like a big deal. So I'm gonna maybe wander out later and buy myself some new maize and blue earrings or something, I don't know. Anyway, today we are going to be talking about the reapplication process. I already have done a video about this a little while ago, but I thought it was good for a refresh because honestly, we're getting a lot of questions about reapplying, and I think we're getting a lot of questions because last year was a gigantic year for applications. So I believe, I saw this data just yesterday and I have somehow managed to forget it, but I believe that the overall numbers were that we were up 18% nationally in applicants and 30% in applications. So it was a very competitive year. So I suspect that there will be more reapplicants in this cycle to come because there will be people who are disappointed with whatever their outcomes were and they want to give it another whirl. That totally makes sense, but there are some pitfalls to avoid and some things you can do to strengthen your application. So let's talk about that. First of all, you should know that when you are reapplying, law schools will know that you have applied before. I suppose there's some time limit on that. Our application actually asks you to tell us if you've applied before, so many schools will do that. But also we just have a database that we use from the Law School Admissions Council that goes back roughly 10 years, maybe even longer. So if we type in Sarah Zierfuss to enter your application data, we will see that Sarah Zierfuss has already had a past application. I should also add that when it comes to the reapplication data that we can see, we can only see if you applied to our specific school. So if you applied to Harvard but not to Michigan, I won't know if you go through the process again and add us on this time. And there's absolutely no reason for you to address that, no need at all. So everything I'm saying about being able to see past applicants, it only pertains to the particular school. So schools will know, and they will have that full application available to them. Whether or not they have reader notes on the past application is less clear. Some schools may save those, some schools may not. So you can't count on that there will be reader notes, and you can't count on the fact that anyone will go back and reread your application, but it may happen. So you need to assume that either thing could happen, that they will look or that they won't look, and that they will have a summary or that they won't have a summary. And you need to prepare accordingly, which means say everything you want to say. Don't assume that because you said it earlier, they will go back and see that and know that. So anything you want them to know, you need to say it in your new application. But by the same token, if you are changing something quite radically, you need to be aware that they may notice that it has changed. So, for example, let's say you wrote an essay in your first application that says, this is what I want to do with my law degree. I want to be a corporate lawyer on Wall Street, and I want to earn $1 kajillion, and I just love thinking about money. In this year, you want to apply and you want to say, what I want to do with my law degree is to be a public defender, and I want to live in a rural area, and I want to have clients that are I really get to know, and that I am really helping, the people who need help the most and who don't get great legal representation. If you are having a 180 on your goals, that is valid. Like, people change their minds. Most people who are applying to law school are young, but you need to assume that they will see this and think, what? And so you need to explain how you came to evolve your goals. You don't necessarily need to refer back to your prior application, but you can say, when I first was on this journey, I was thinking XYZ, and now I'm thinking ABC, and here's what happened to make me think ABC. You just need to make sure that you're getting out in front of any possible inconsistencies. Another thing you need to think about is, where can I improve? It didn't work out for you the first time the way you hoped it would work out. Ergo, something should be different, right? And you need to step back and take a very hard look at everything that you submitted the first time and think, where can I make up ground, right? So that could be anything from, did I ask the best people to write letters of rec? Is there somebody better I could ask? Should I get new letters of rec? If possible, yes, just get them refreshed, because it's now a year later, you've done new things, maybe they can say something new about you. So it could be letters of rec. It could be, look at your resume. Did you leave a lot off in the interest of getting it all on one page? Could you expand it and be a little more clear by making it a little longer? Or did you contrariwise give a 6-page resume, and really you need to edit that down and get it down to 1 or 2 pages that are clear and coherent and comprehensive, but not full of extraneous information. You need to think about, are there questions? Are there mysteries in this application that aren't otherwise addressed? Do I need to add an addendum? And then finally, essays, I would say you should certainly be at least revisiting your personal statement, if not rewriting it entirely, which I know is a pain, and I hate to give that advice, but that is really solid advice. Again, it did not work out that first time, so you have to assume these are things, there's room for improvement. I will also at this juncture just observe, it was a huge year. Like at Michigan, we had 9,000 applications. That's a 50% increase over what our average application volume is. So, don't feel, if you're looking at your application and you don't see like some obvious problems, recognize that this is just a numbers issue at some level, right? There were too many applicants for all the good applicants to get admitted, in any, all the people who I would have been happy to admit, not all of them could get in any given year. The last thing I want to address on this topic is that there are multiple, you might be reapplying not just because you didn't get into a given school, but maybe you got in and you like that school, but you maybe didn't want to commit completely. Like there could be a lot of reasons where you're reapplying even to a school that you were already admitted to, or perhaps you got waitlisted at a school and you're reapplying. So those are the 3 scenarios. You got admitted, you got denied, you got waitlisted. What might be different for each of those scenarios? First of all, if you were denied, you should be very confident that that will not be held against you. People often ask me that, will that be held against me? No, it won't. It's always a clean slate. Like there's no admissions officer that I have ever met that says, well, if I denied you once, I'm sure it was the right decision and I'm never going to admit you. No, we want to assess you each year anew with the new materials. So don't worry about that. What if you were waitlisted? Well, you should feel good. Like that means you cleared some level of hurdle, right? They thought well of you enough that they thought we would be, in theory, willing to have you in this class, and you got to that level, but you didn't get all the way in. Again, this could just be a numbers game. I will say that at Michigan, we have had virtually no movement on the wait list for many weeks now. We just haven't had any movement in the class, so it's a rough year for the wait list, in addition to being a rough year for the initial application decisions. But one thing to be wary of, often when people get waitlisted and then reapply, they say in an essay, I was so disappointed, I was so upset to be waitlisted, I was really sad. Don't say that, because, and I guess that also holds true for people who are denied, although for some reason people don't say that so much. But don't make the admissions office feel bad about doing their job, right? It's not, I know it's very personal to the applicant. I 100% get that, and I always try to bear that in mind. But also, at the same time, the admissions, we just have a job we have to do, and we cannot admit everybody. So it really makes me feel bad when people say that, and that is not the emotion you want to create in the person reading your file. You don't want them to be feeling guilty and bad. So don't say that. You can praise the school and say how much you want to go there, but don't say, and why the heck didn't you let me in? Because it's not creating the vibe you're going for. Okay, and then the third possible scenario is that you were admitted and didn't enroll. That is actually the trickiest, because I do always wonder if I admitted someone and they didn't say yes and now they are reapplying. I want to know why. Why would you come this time if you didn't come last time? So I think you should be prepared to address that. And my advice to you is don't say it's because whatever school it is didn't give you enough in the way of financial aid. Of course you want financial aid. Of course that is a concern. That is a completely valid reason not to take an offer. But it does, you may feel differently in this current season. Like maybe if they gave, let's just say the school gave you $30,000, and at the time last year you didn't think that was enough. But maybe this year you'd be like, you know what, I'll take it, $30,000. I like that school and whatever. A year from now you may feel very differently than you felt a year ago, right? So don't just box yourself into a corner by saying, I need more money. You might prefer to have the option with whatever amount they want to offer you than to not have the option at all. Because if you say it wasn't enough money and a person is reading your application and says, well, I know I can't give them more money, so because I have the same admissions policy or financial aid policy rather, you may not get in, right? You've already said that's not enough for you. So don't commit to that. Come up with some other truthful reason, where you've said, like, I decided I needed to keep working, or I needed a new job where I was earning more money because, my finances weren't working out. That would be a way to address the financial consideration without saying, you need to give me more money. Okay. I think that covers everything. Let us know in the comments or in an email if you have other questions, and I'll see if I can answer those. But now, otherwise, let's turn to the grammar section. A couple episodes ago, I got very esoteric about quotation marks, where I was talking about like the types of quotation marks. But it occurs to me that I should talk about quotation marks more generally, because I used them in this episode. You may have noticed I did that, those air quotes. When do you put things in quotation marks? There are 2 times, and only 2 times, where you put things in quotation marks. One is when you're quoting somebody. That gets a quote. The other is when you're trying to say that a word or a phrase is so-called. What's a good example of this? It can sometimes be used as an insult. So you might say, Sarah Zierfoss, the dean of admissions, meaning I deny people a lot or something like that. You could do that. But some people tend to use it for emphasis or to just draw attention to a word. I'll just say a relative. I have a relative who does that a lot, and he will never see this video because he really doesn't use the internet. It's amazing. But it drives me crazy. It's like reading emails from him is quite an adventure. It's like, why are there 50 words in quotation marks? I can't even follow what's happening here. So my advice to you is be scrupulous about when you're using quotation marks, and only use them to say a quote or to say that something is so-called, and that's it. Okay, thank you. Thank you as always for watching. Please let us know what we can be doing to address your questions as we approach this admission season. Let us know in the comments or send us an email to law.jd.admissions@umich.edu and put vlog in the subject line. Although, honestly, sometimes we steal non-vlog submissions, questions that we think would be useful for the vlog. So, anything you ask us, I might repurpose for this. And as always, I just want to say thank you to Dustin for all his hard work. A recent comment on an old episode on YouTube, I'm told, was defending Dustin's hair, which I apparently insulted in some old episode, said he needed a haircut. On the one hand, I love the loyalty. Dustin deserves loyalty. He's amazing. We could not do this without him. On the other hand, you can't even see his hair, so you don't know. You don't know. That might have been a very appropriate observation on my part. But no, good looking out. So thank you. And thank you, Dustin, for all you do. Wherever you go, go blue.